Welcome back to my channel, The Dark Side of History with Anya Foley. As the name of the channel implies, it will explore the darker side of history. If this is your first time here and you're interested, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell if you haven't done so already. And don't forget to like and share the video. Since it's Halloween, I thought that it might be interesting to look at folklore surrounding the black cat and its association with the devil. The source that I'm using for today's video is the Schools collection, which was compiled back in the 1930s by the Irish Folklore Commission. I will include a link in the information box of this video so you can check out the collection yourself. About 50,000 children were commissioned to record stories told to them by people they knew. There are over 1,000 references to black cats in this collection, and in this video I'm going to focus on stories that mention the devil. A lot of these stories, which came from all over Ireland, have very similar storylines. The story usually involved a priest visiting a house for dinner and the occupiers of the house telling the priest that the black cat had been living in the house for many generations, and the priest exposing the black cat as the devil and expelling it from the home. The first example comes from Limerick, and the informant was Michael Ryan, who was 74 when the story was recorded. He reports that a priest came to a house occupied by the Shern family near Atlacha to say Mass. After Mass, the priest was invited to breakfast, and he noticed that the family's black cat was fed first. He asked why the cat was fed first, and he was informed that it had been in the house for the last 4 generations. The priest declared that the cat was the devil, and to prove this, he took a book out of his pocket and read from it. At this point, the cat disappeared in a blaze of fire. The next story doesn't mention the devil, but has a similar theme to the previous story. It occurred in Butts Green, County Kilkenny. It tells the story of a very rich man named Power, who came from a village called Kilfane, about 7 miles outside of Kilkenny. He played cards in his house, and one day he invited 2 neighbours to play with him. The neighbours noticed that Power always won, and after a while they became suspicious and noticed that they were always followed by a black cat. They decided to go to the parish priest and tell him the whole story. The priest disguised himself as one of the neighbours and went to the house, and he noticed the black cat lying next to his master's chair. He realised that Power was winning with the help of the cat. At midnight, the priest confronted the cat and he took out a prayer book and holy water. The priest started to sprinkle the holy water and read from the prayer book, and this caused the cat to become bigger and bigger before it disappeared through the ceiling in a terrible fury. He left a large hole in the ceiling which could never be repaired. So even though the devil isn't mentioned in the story, the cat is clearly some sort of demon that had to be exorcised from the house. In the next account, a Catholic priest was invited by a Protestant minister to dinner. This occurred a couple of months after the minister's wife had died. After the meal, the minister turned on the priest and threatened him with a hatchet, asking him where his wife had gone. The priest said that he couldn't tell at first, but when the minister threatened to kill him, he prayed for 2 hours until a fire arose. A black cat appeared in the fire along with the minister's wife, and she informed him that she was in hell. The priest then told the minister that the black cat was the devil. The minister fled the house, and when he returned 20 years later, he had become a Catholic priest. Another Protestant called Mr. Tutty appears in the next story that I'm going to talk about. This tale is based in Whitestown, County Wicklow. This story was told by Michael Byrne to Kathleen Byrne, who is likely to have been his daughter. Michael Byrne mentions that his grandmother visited Mr. Tutty when he was on his deathbed, and he mentioned that a black cat sat on his rafter and watched him night, noon and morning. When the grandmother checked the rafter, she could not see a cat and ran down the stairs because she realised that the cat was the devil. Unlike previous stories, there wasn't a priest there to banish the cat back to hell. The next account introduces us to Sir Denham Jepson Norreys, who held Mallow Castle and wanted to build a new castle there. but he did not have the funds to do so. The devil appeared and offered to give him the money on the condition that he look after a black cat for him and to make sure not to offend the cat. When the castle was completed, Sir Norris had a banquet and the cat jumped up on the table. Sir Norris removed the cat off the table. At that moment, a horseman came to the hall door and rang the bell. When a servant answered, he asked for Sir Norris, and when Norris went down, the horseman caught hold of him and dashed his brains out against the castle walls, and the mark could still be seen at the time the story was recorded. In reality, Sir Norris lived to the advanced age of 88, and there is no evidence that he met a violent end. A story shared by James McCabe of Corlock, County Monaghan, dates back to possibly the 17th century, when laws were passed making it difficult for Catholics to practice their religion. Fines and imprisonment could be imposed for attending Mass, and priests could be executed for practicing their ministry. An old man and his two sons who lived in 3 Mile House, County Monaghan, were priest hunters, and one day when both sons were out priest hunting, a priest came to the house and the old man offered to let him stay for the night. When his sons came home, they agreed to kill the priest the next morning. The next morning, the priest said that everyone in the house had welcomed him except for the black cat, and he informed them that the cat was the devil. They told him that if he could prove that they would set him free. Just like in the other stories, the priest read his prayer book, which forced the cat to disappear in a blaze of fire. Because he had proved that he was the devil, the priest was set free. As you can probably tell, in most of these stories, the black cat is owned by a Protestant family, and this is the case in a story about the Metcalfe family from Carrigacarra, County Wicklow, close to Blessington. A surprising number of Catholic priests appear to be invited to dinner in Protestant households, because yet again, in this story, a priest came to dinner. When he entered the house, the priest blessed the food, which annoyed the cat, and just like the other stories, the owner of the house mentioned that the cat is always served first. This time the cat refused to eat the meat, and the priest informed Mr. Metcalfe that the cat was in fact the devil. Again, the priest said prayers over the cat and asked why he was there. The cat told him that he was there for 3 generations and he was going to stay there until he got the last of the family. The priest ordered him to leave and the cat vanished up the chimney. As a result, the Metcalfe family became Catholics. In another story from County Kerry, a family converts to Catholicism when a priest got rid of a cat that had been living with the family since their great-grandfather's time. No one seems to question why the cats were living for such a long period of time. Occasionally, in stories where the black cat and the devil appear, the cat wasn't always the devil. 2 different stories, both from County Louth, describe how the devil appeared and would only leave if he was given something. In both tales, he was given a black cat. One story took place in a hall at Coolra, where men used to go to play cards. One night a stranger appeared, and one of the men, looking under the table, noticed that the stranger had cloven hooves. Once the stranger was given a black cat, he flew through the window like a flash of lightning. The second story transpired in Piperstown, and the devil came up through the ruins of an old church, said to have been built by St. Patrick. Once he received a black cat, he disappeared. There are also stories of people who sold their souls to the devil. One story is based in County Mayo, and a man called Collins sold his soul to the devil, and he had a black cat, who had to be given the first bit of everything he ate. When Collins was close to death, he decided that it was time that he repent his sins, and he sent for the local priests. The priest prayed over the dying man, and the black cat came from under the bed and hurled himself against the wall of the house, breaking a hole into it and vanishing. Another story from County Monaghan describes how a man called Mr. McCabe sold himself to the devil, and when he was on his deathbed, a black dog with flaming eyes rushed into the room. The people in the room tried to get out, but they were unable to. They sent for Father McAdam, who was parish priest of Killeven. Father Eugene McAdam, incidentally, was a real person, and he died on the 30th of October 1923, exactly 99 years and a day ago. aged 51. He was buried in the graveyard at Cleven. The priest tried to get the dog out, but it refused to leave without something, so the priest threw a black cat at it, and the dog ran out of the room with the cat. The man died that night, but a noise was heard in the room after the people of the house had gone to bed. The priest returned and shut up the room, which was never to be opened. The last story that we'll be looking at in this video comes from Letterkenny, County Donegal. In the story, the devil appears to be haunting a man in the form of a black cat. It started one Saturday night when the man was returning home. He was followed by a black cat, and when he tried to catch it, it disappeared. The next day, his cow died. This happened several times over many years, and afterwards a cow would die or a family member would get sick. One evening, he decided to take a shortcut across a field, and he saw the black cat. He was compelled to follow the cat against its will towards a deep stream, and when they reached it, he screamed, "Will you lead me on forever?" The cat got angry, and the man slipped and was struck unconscious. He was found the next day and spent the next few months in bed, and when he was able to get up, he was hardly able to walk at all. When he was sitting outside, the cat appeared in daylight for the first time. The man ran after the cat, and when he ran across the road, he was hit by a car and was killed immediately. As Margaret McDermott, the reporter of the story, tells us, the devil in the form of a cat had led him to his doom. We've come to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and share it with anyone who you think might be interested. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Bye for now.